The $4 Amish powder that wipes out any bug in your house, and why exterminators won't mention it. The exterminator pulls up in his white truck. He walks around your house, sprays the chemical from the tank on his back, leaves a paper on your door, and drives off again. $800 a year, sometimes $1,000, sometimes $1,200. And not for the 1 year, mind you, but every year, for as long as you own that house. Because the ants will be back next month, and the roaches in the spring, and the fleas with the dog in the summer, and the silverfish in the bathroom, year upon year upon year. Now I want you to sit with this a moment. There is a soft white powder you can buy at a feed store, or a garden center, or a hardware store, for about $4 a bag. It kills the ants. It kills the roaches. It kills the fleas, the bedbugs, the silverfish, the earwigs, the slugs, the beetles that get into your stored flour, over 100 kinds of crawling thing, every one of them, all by the very same simple means. And it is not a chemical poison. It is a mineral you dig up out of the ground. It is so gentle the government allows it mixed right into the grain that you yourself eat. And once you have dusted it in the right place and kept it dry, it goes on working a long, long while. My name is Elsie Yoder, a plain Amish grandmother here in Lancaster County, and my grandfather taught me about this powder when I was a girl no higher than his elbow. He kept a bag of it out in the granary and another in the chicken coop, and it has been in our barns and our pantries the whole of my long life. I am going to be honest with you the whole way through, the way I always am. I will tell you what it is, how it truly works, the long list of what it kills, the one difference between the kind you want and the kind you do not, exactly where to put it for each kind of pest, and the small handful of mistakes that make folks try it once and give up too soon. And for the whole of how we keep a home and a place for so much less than the English pay, it is all in the Amish Home Savings Guide, over at elsieyoderamish.com, the link just below. You need none of it for what comes next. Now let me tell you how it kills, for this is the part that will surprise you, and it is the very reason it works where the sprays fail. It is not a poison. It does not go inside the bug and stop its heart. Put a pinch of it under a strong glass and you would see it is no smooth powder at all. It is made of the tiny hard shells of little creatures that lived in the water an age ago, and every one of those shells is edged sharp as broken glass to a thing as small as a bug. It is called diatomaceous earth, and the old folks called it fossil flour, which is just what it is. When a bug, any crawling bug, walks through it, those sharp edges score and scratch the waxy coat on its shell, the very coat that holds the water inside its body. And then the powder drinks that water out through the scratches, and the bug dries up from the inside, and it dies. And here is the wonder of it. A bug cannot grow strong against being scratched and dried, no more than you could grow used to walking barefoot on broken glass. That is why the sprays wear out in a single generation, as the bugs grow resistant to them, and this dust has worked the same for 100 years, and will work 100 more. And because it kills by that one plain means, the scratching and the drying, it works on near everything that crawls and carries that waxy shell. Let me name them for you so you know its reach. The ants marching your counter, the roaches behind your stove, the fleas in the carpet and the dog's bed, the bedbugs in the seams of the mattress, the silverfish in the bathroom and behind the bookshelf, the earwigs and the pill bugs in the damp cellar, the little weevils and beetles that get down into your stored flour and your cornmeal, the slugs eating your garden, the mites in the chicken coop. Over 100 kinds of crawling pest, all of them, with the one $4 bag. There is not another thing you can buy for $4 that does the 1/10 of it. Now hear the one hard rule, for it matters more than any other, and folks get it wrong and either waste their money or do themselves harm. You must buy the kind marked food grade. There is another kind, sold for the filters of swimming pools, and that kind has been cooked and changed in a way that makes it dangerous to breathe and useless for this work besides. Food grade. Say it over to yourself on the way to the store. The food grade kind is the one so safe it goes into the stored grain, the pool kind you leave right there on the shelf. Now where to put it, and this is where the most of the failing happens, so I will take you through it plain. The first rule is the same as it ever is. Lay it thin. A fine haze you can barely see, never a heap, for a bug will walk around a pile the way you would walk around a snowdrift, but it will walk straight through a thin dusting and carry its own death away with it. Tap it on gentle, or puff it from a little squeeze bottle, and you put it where the bugs travel, in the dark, along the edges. Let me give it to you pest by pest, for each one has its own hiding place. For the roaches, you dust it behind and underneath the stove and the icebox, along the baseboards, into the cracks of the low cupboards, under the sink where the pipe comes through the wall, and behind the outlet covers, for they run inside the walls from room to room. For the fleas, and this is the one folks get wrong most, you must treat the whole house at once, for the fleas you see are the smallest part of it, and the eggs are down in the carpet and the cracks of the floor. So you dust it into the carpet and work it down deep with a broom, and into the pet's bedding, and along the baseboards, and you leave it a good 2 or 3 days before you sweep and vacuum. For the bed bugs, you dust the seams of the mattress and the box spring and the joints of the bed frame, and you set the legs of the bed in little dishes with a ring of it, so the only road up is through the dust. For the pantry beetles and the weevils, a thin dusting on the shelf, and you can stir a spoonful right into the bin of flour or cornmeal if you like, for it is that safe, and sift it out when you bake. For the garden slug, a ring of it around the base of the plant. For the coop, dust it into the nest boxes and along the roosts where the mites hide. Wherever the pest walks, there the dust goes. Now let me tell you a thing I watched with my own eyes, so you do not take this for just an old woman fond of the old ways. There was a young English family that moved into a rented house down the road a piece, an old place that had stood empty a while, and it came with roaches already living in it, and fleas besides, for the folks before had kept dogs. She told me later she had spent near $600 over 3 months on the sprays and the foggers, and 2 visits from a man with a truck, and still of a night she would flip on the kitchen light and they would scatter, and the children were getting bitten by the fleas in their own beds. She was near to tears over it, so I brought her a $4 bag of the food-grade dust and a little squeeze bottle, and I walked the house with her one afternoon and showed her where to lay it, thin, behind everything and along every edge, and down into the carpet. And I told her the hard part, which was to leave it be and be patient. She wrote me a note about 3 weeks on. The fleas were gone entire. The roaches she saw fewer and fewer of each night until by the month's end, she flipped on the light and there were none. 1 bag of powder, $4, where the man with the truck and the $600 had failed her. And the first thing she wrote was the thing they always say, "Why did nobody ever tell me this?" Now I promised you the honest limits, and here they are, for they are the whole difference between success and giving up. First, it does not kill the eggs, only the living bug that walks through it, so you must leave it down a good 2 or 3 weeks, right through the hatching, so the young ones cross it too. Second, it works slower on the hard-shelled bugs, like the beetle, than on the soft ones, like the flea, for the hard shell takes longer to scratch through, so be patient with those. And third, and this is the one that trips the most folks, wet powder does nothing at all. The scratching and the drying only work while it is dry. So you keep it in the dry places, and if a spot gets damp, you let it dry or you lay it down fresh. And one word of care, for the honest gardener must hear it. This dust does not know a pest from a helper. It will dry out a honeybee the same as it dries a slug if the bee should walk through it. So out in the garden, you never dust it over the flowers that are in bloom, where the bees come to forage. You lay it low, at the foot of the plant, in the evening when the bees are already home in the hive, and on the ground where the slug travels and the bee does not. The honest gardener kills the slug and saves the bee, and it is easily done if you only mind where you lay it. Now, my brother keeps a little store in the town, and he tells me the questions the English most often ask about this dust, so let me answer the three that come up every time, plain and honest. The first is always, is it truly safe, with children in the house and a dog? And the answer is that it is far safer than the sprays and foggers you would otherwise reach for, so safe it is put into stored grain that people eat. But it is still a fine dust, and no fine dust of any kind is a thing you want a body breathing down into its lungs, day after day. So you tie a cloth or a dust mask over your nose and mouth while you lay it, you tap it gentle so it does not cloud up into the air, and you let it settle before the little ones and the animals come back into the room. Once it has settled into the cracks where you laid it, it sits still and does no harm. A dog that walks across a dusted floor is not hurt by it. It is only the cloud of it in the air, while you work, that you mind. The second question is, will it hurt my floors, or my vacuum, or my pipes? Your floors? No. It wipes and sweeps right up. Your vacuum, now, there is a real answer. The very fine dust can clog a cheap vacuum's filter and wear on the motor if you take up a great deal of it at once. So when you go to clean it up after it's 2 or 3 weeks, sweep up the most of it with a broom and a dustpan first, and only then run the vacuum over what is left. And your pipes it does not touch, for you are laying it dry in the cracks, not washing it down the drain. And the third question is the one that always makes me a touch sad. Somebody will tell their exterminator or their storeman what I have told you, and that man will say, the powder is no good, that it is a folk remedy, that you ought to leave the pests to the professionals. And of course he says it. He has a service to sell, and not one thing he sells earns him a dime if you walk out with a $4 bag that lasts you a year. I do not say the man is wicked. I say he was taught by the trade that feeds him, and the trade has no reason in the world to teach him otherwise. Try the $4 bag one time, laid down right and left, be patient, and let your own 2 eyes tell you who had the truth of it. Now you may well wonder why, if a $4 bag does the work of the whole pest control trade, no man in a white truck ever knocks on your door to tell you of it. It is no dark conspiracy, and I will not pretend it is. It is simpler and sadder than that. There is no money in a one-time fix. The pest control trade in this country is worth $16,000 million a year, and every dollar of it leans on your trouble coming back on a schedule you could set your calendar by. A powder you buy once for $4 and then forget you own is the very worst thing that could happen to a business built on the monthly visit. So they do not lie about it. They simply never once mention it, and the plain old knowing gets quietly crowded out, generation by generation, by the very folks who profit from your never learning it. We held on to it in my community for the plainest reason there is. We could not call a man with a truck, and we could not sign a paper. We could not pay. And so, when a thing worked and cost near nothing, we could not afford to forget it. So here is what I would have you do. Go and get the $4 bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth and a little squeeze bottle to puff it out thin. Lay it in the dark along the roads your pests travel, thin as breath, in every place I named for the trouble you have. Keep it dry, and then leave it be a good 3 weeks, right through the hatching, and let it do its slow and certain work. And then come down here and tell me, in the comments, which pest has cost you the most over the years, the ants, the roaches, the fleas, the bedbugs, the silverfish, and once you have tried it, come back and tell me what happened over the next 2 weeks, for the stories you all send back teach the new folks more than ever I could, and I do read every single one. And no, there is nothing clever in any of it. It is only remembered. We kept a bag of this out in the granary not because we were wise, but because we could not afford to forget the cheap thing that actually worked. Teach it to one young family setting up a first home, for that is how this knowing stays alive, not in any book, but from one pair of hands down to the next. Next time, the good Lord willing, I will show you the one sweet bait my mother used on the ants alone, the dollar powder that empties the whole nest, the queen and all, so they never come marching back into your kitchen. Until then, keep your dust dry, and God keep you all.